Hi everybody, this is Colin Ness from Kent Fit Body Boot Camp and Kent Fit Body Forever. And I'm here today with Dr. Dan Ritchie, one of the founders of the Functional Aging Institute. And we're going to talk today a little bit about our Fit Body Forever program and find out what makes it one of the best programs around for training folks in the older population. So, hello Dr. Dan, how are you today?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me. I love doing this stuff for Fit Body Forever owners all across North America.
We're really glad to have you. One of the things I wondered is how you got into training folks in the older population. What's a little bit about your history and how you got into that?
Yeah, sure. So I started out as a Division I strength coach, actually. I was training college athletes. Took me about a year to realize this isn't what I want to do with the rest of my life. In fact, after about 6 months, I realized I've got to find a different kind of athlete to train. So I moved to Wisconsin and got my master's degree. And while I was doing that, I spent 3 years at a really large health club, about 4,000 members. And I really just loved training people over the age of 50, people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. And here I am, a 23-year-old guy that thought he was going to be training athletes. And I wound up training a totally different kind of athlete. And really, probably the big breakthrough for me was a client named Don. He was 72. And he came to me, and his fitness goal was like no fitness goal I'd ever been taught in undergrad, nothing I'd ever been trained for. It was, I want to be able to tie my own shoes again. And I was
Wow.
like, what do you mean? Like, had nothing to do with the mechanics of tying your shoes. It was he couldn't reach his shoes anymore. And so I said, well, tell me a little more about that. He said, well, I'm an 8 handicap golfer, which if you're into golf at all, you know that's really good.
Yep.
So here's a guy who's going out shooting in the low 80s, high 70s, and he couldn't tee up his own golf ball. He couldn't get the ball out of the hole because he simply had no flexibility, no mobility. Well, come to find out, he had 4 knee replacements. Now, this guy was not unusual. He's got 2 feet just like you and me, 2 knees. He had 1 knee operated on 3 times. And so really we just needed to work on range of motion, mobility, flexibility with him. He was in good shape, right? His fitness was actually pretty good. He was a regular health club attender. So about 4 weeks later, Colin, he comes in. He's like, hey, Dan, check out my new shoes. And I'm like, I'm literally like, seriously? Like, when has a 70-year-old guy ever asked me to check out his shoes, right?
Right.
I look down at his shoes and I realize they're not Velcro. They're not these scrunchy self-tie. They're, your regular Nikes, laced up, tied. In about 2 seconds, I look back up. He's got tears welling up in his eyes. Now tears are welling up in my eyes. And I realize, like, I've changed this guy's life, right? I mean, like, the next 10 to 15 years, he's going to be able to enjoy golf more than he has been. And I was hooked. And I was like, this is what I want to do. These are the people I want to help. This is the kind of athlete I want to spend my career training. And that really launched me into, I want to go get a PhD at Purdue University, study as much as I can. And Cody and I met, and along the way, we decided to open our own training facility, and kind of the rest is history.
So it's you and Dr. Cody that started the Functional Aging Institute. Was that what it was called at the beginning? And then can you tell us what the Institute is really about?
Yeah, so in 2007, we opened Miracles Fitness, which is our training facility. Actually was going to wear my Miracles Fitness sweatshirt, but it's so warm here today. We're having unseasonable winter weather.
Oh, man. Good.
I'm just in a t-shirt, so that's great. So we opened Miracles Fitness in 2007. In 2008, we both finished our PhDs, and we spent 5 years studying balance and power training. Cody's dissertation was on power training. Mine was on balance training. And about 5 years later, 2013, we launched the Functional Aging Institute. We said, what we're doing here is unique, and most people are not doing a functional aging model of personal training with their older clients. And so we launched the Functional Aging Institute so that primarily we could train trainers. We could train folks like you and your staff. We could train other facilities to be able to train older clients in a really effective way, right, for the best results. Not just let's have a senior fitness program. This is about function, it's about lifestyle, it's about living the best life for as long as you possibly can. And so with that, the Functional Aging Institute now has trained over 2,000 trainers around the world. We're in 15 countries, 15 or 16 last time I checked. We're on every continent except South America and Antarctica at this point, and we're about to have someone certified in South America. So we're growing all around the world. The aging population is not unique to the U.S. or Canada. It's a global challenge, and in some countries becoming a real crisis. I was in South Korea last year speaking and teaching, and in South Korea in about 10 years, their population is going to actually be over 50 heavy, which means more people are going to be over 50 than under 50. In fact, their population is going to begin to decline as more people are dying than are being born, simply because their country is tipping to a much older level. So it's a significant issue for a lot of countries, and there's really been a lack of fitness programming and a lack of trained fitness instructors.
Wow. Yeah, it's a global problem. I've heard in some of your talks, you talk about the FAT model. Could you go into that a little bit and explain to folks what that is and how it applies to the older population?
Yeah, so the FAT model really has nothing to do with fat or weight loss, but we love using that acronym. So it stands for Functional Aging Training. And really the model is about how do we train someone whose body is aging for maximal function. And so I don't care if you're 60, 70, 80, or beyond. We want to make sure that your fitness program, your training session is designed to maximize your function. And so we look at things like bending over and teeing up a golf ball, bending over and picking something up, carrying 30 pounds, an infant, right, or maybe a toddler grandchild, and then having to carry them across the room. And so what are all of those tasks requiring of your physical system? And we want to make sure your training is going to maximize that, right? So it doesn't matter whether you ever want to play golf or play tennis or water ski or downhill ski. There are things that you have to do simply to take care of yourself, to do all the things you need to do. And the functional aging training model says we're going to address all of that.
The other one.
Okay. So just think when you hear the FAT model, think functional aging training. And so it really doesn't matter how old you are. In fact, if you're not an exerciser now and you're listening, it's not too late to start. You're not too old. In fact, it's never too late to begin.
Sorry about that. I had some technical difficulties.
That's all right. I still see you and hear you.
All right, there you go. So what are some of maybe the number one deficiency, given the FAT training model that you've seen maybe with some of the other training programs that are out there? Mm-hmm. And how is that addressed by Functional Aging Institute and Fit Body Forever?
Yeah, I think for years, we've really made some mistakes in the fitness industry. We've just sort of felt like, well, hey, somebody who's 60 or 70 can jump into a fitness program too, and they absolutely can, but it doesn't mean it's correct or appropriate to train them like a 20 or 30-year-old. Now, I would argue if you get into more complex exercise training that some of the things we've been doing with 20 and 30-year-olds are wrong, but then when you just apply those blanketly to 60 and 70-year-olds, that's a mistake. And so things like, your typical cardiovascular training, right? Like run on a treadmill or walk on a treadmill or ride a stationary bike. Those actually aren't going to be of big functional benefit for older adults. In fact, they're going to have less benefit for someone in their 70s than someone in their 20s or 30s. Things like strength training on machines, well, that's primarily based on bodybuilding history that has come into the fitness industry, right? So we isolate movements to grow muscles. Again, not going to maximize function. And so a lot of traditional fitness programming that you see in health clubs, like, do some cardio on a treadmill or an elliptical or a bike, do some strength machines, those actually have been shown time and time again in the research to not lead to great maximal functional outcomes. And so the big deficiency you see in a lot of programming for older adults is just the lack of impacting the quality of my life, right? It's like, so I've been exercising, I've gotten stronger, my cardiovascular stamina is a little bit better, but I'm not seeing it impact my daily life, right? I'm still having trouble going up and down stairs, or I'm still having trouble carrying heavy things, or I'm still fatigued, or I still don't have as much energy as I want, or I'm still afraid I might lose my balance if I go on a hike. And so then you're like, well, what is the exercise really benefiting you, right? If it's not impacting your ability to do all the stuff you want to do. And so that in and of itself, I think, is the big thing that's been missing in a lot of fitness programming.
You know, we've been running our Fit Body Forever program for about 8 months now. We have some really amazing clients. You know, I was wondering, in your experience, you've been training them for so much longer, what kind of benefits have you seen? Have you seen folks maybe drop their medications or be able to do trips that they would never been able to do otherwise?
Yeah, I'll give you three examples. Actually, we've had dozens of people change their medications, but a couple that stand out are actually people that have come in and they've been feeling worse. Right? They come in a few months later and they're like, man, my energy doesn't feel right. I feel lightheaded. I constantly sort of feel dizzy, and we realize you are on way too much blood pressure medication. In fact, you've actually, in most cases, with 3 or 4 of these people, I remember, they'd cured their blood pressure issue. They didn't need blood pressure meds anymore at all, but they were, of course, still taking them because they'd been taking them for years faithfully. They said, you need to go see your physician, get your blood pressure reevaluated. And in most of those cases, they went completely off their blood pressure meds. In some cases, they just cut their dose in half. So that's one that we've seen consistently. 2 other ones that were a lot of fun. We had a gal come in her 70s who had fallen. And the fall had really kind of scared her, right? Like, here I am in my 70s and I've fallen. Like, is life going to go downhill for me? In fact, she said, I don't think I'll ever be able to travel to Europe again. And she liked to travel to Europe about once a year or once every 2 years. You know, she'd kind of explore a new country, go to new places, and, you know, go on fantastic trips, right? And now she's realizing that may be the end of the road for my traveling. Well, a year later, she came back, you know, just all excited to tell us about her fantastic trip to Europe that she got to go on and just absolutely enjoyed. No risks, no fears, was totally confident, you know, and just felt like we had given her 5 to 10 more years of traveling to Europe because we'd just turned her balance and her agility around. And then she jokingly says, and I still get to play lousy golf. I'm not any good at golf, but I'm still out there playing with my friends, you know. So, and then the third one that comes to mind is an 80-year-old who came to us when she was 80 or 81 and wanted to go to the Galapagos Islands. Now, here's the kick. She was not in very good fitness health, didn't have much stamina, and to kick, she had Parkinson's. So her balance wasn't great, her stamina wasn't great, and to basically enjoy the Galapagos Islands with her husband, she needed to be able to hike a mile on not really rigorous terrain, but somewhat uneven terrain. It's not like the Galapagos Islands are paved, right? So she's like, I need to be able to walk a mile. And when she came in, I don't think she could walk a quarter of a mile. And so we trained her, and about a year later, she went to the Galapagos Islands, had a just lifetime trip, and she actually wound up training with us until she was 86. So really, really great story. Again, it's about doing the things you really want to do, right? Like, she didn't come in with a fitness goal. She came in with I want to go to the Galapagos Islands, and this is what I have to be able to do it.
Yeah, for sure. So is there one thing in the Fit Body Forever program that really distinguishes it from any other training program that's out there?
Yeah, I would actually say there's probably 2 or 3 things, but the first big thing that I can actually see on the wall behind you is the functional aging specialist certified. So your staff, your trainers have gone through the Functional Aging Institute training, right? So it's not just they're going to wind up with a fitness professional who's like, hey, this might work with a 60-year-old. They've actually gone through and they've sifted through about 15 years of research. And we've put about 15 years worth of science into the program of what works with older adults. So every training session at Fit Body Forever is designed with functional outcomes in mind, right? So we're training things like balance, agility, flexibility, range of motion, power, speed, strength. We're training so many components of human function that 6 months from now, your people are going to be saying, I'm moving better than I ever have. I've got more confidence than I've had in years. In fact, they are going to feel like you're turning back the clock, right? Like, I don't like to tell people, hey, we're going to make you feel 20 years younger. But I do believe we can make you feel like you're moving like you did 20 years ago. And that is a huge, huge benefit of Fit Body Forever. The other big one that I think is really cool is the community aspect. It's hard to find a community of people like yourself that are all trying to exercise, stay healthy, be fit, be strong. And so that community is really powerful. And so because you deliver the training in small groups, people get what I call sort of comrades or peers in this ultimate fitness experience, rather than this go-it-alone mentality of I'm going to go to the health club and work out by myself. And so I think that community aspect is really powerful. And that's even hard to quantify, because now you start to realize, hey, if Barb can do it, I can do it. And if Joan can do it, I can do it. And that just kind of brings everybody up.
Sure, and that's one of the main things that we love when our clients show up for their 10 o'clock session. Everybody's happy to see each other. They would have never met if they not decided to come to Fit Body Forever. And so we've got our own family, and that's one of the things we really love about it. And then the progress that they've made. Our clients have all done amazing things since they started the program. Well, Dr. Dan, I really appreciate your time this morning. It's been great to hear about Fit Body Forever and the Functional Aging Institute. Hope to talk to you some other time. Yeah. And really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. My pleasure.
You bet.